What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Master and Drum Whiskey Room on this Whiskey Wednesday night. How's everybody doing? Obviously, I got a little Pursuit Spirits all ready to go here. A little Pursuit United. This was their, I believe this is their batch 2 of their bourbon. We're gonna bring Ryan Kenny on here in a little bit. Gonna have a little fun tonight, guys. Gonna talk about some really relevant whiskey topics going on right now. Obviously, sip some great bourbons. Talk about some new labels that we got to see on the TTB, and also talk a little bit about Pursuit Spirits and Pursuit United, how that kind of came to be, and where they're going with it. I think it should be a pretty interesting story. If you guys have not listened to Bourbon Pursuit Podcast yet, you're definitely missing out on some really great inside information. It's where I get a lot of my inside stuff at times when I don't feel like reading. I just listen to them when I'm when I'm in the mood. So. Let me say hi to a couple guys in the chat here. Let's see what is going on here. We have a bunch of people jumping in already. Kilco, Paul, Thunder Dan, Top Dog, Unif Poke, Pfeiffer Sound, EJ, Craig Benfield, Trevor Kunkel's here. Sugar Kitty, Mike Franklin's here. William Wiley, what's going on, buddy? Bo's Wine Guy. William Wiley, our Master and Journey ASW Duality single malt picks. We got 2 of them coming out. Just got bottled. One of them got bottled today. So I'm really excited for those coming out real soon, guys. Jeff Perkins, Tim Cornet, Old Man Joe's here. Dart, Sugar Kitty. I think I said hi to you already. Sandeep Chima's here. How you doing, Sandeep? Slapshot's here. JG, Big Bick in the house. Scotty, my Bourbon Journey. What is going on? If you guys don't know Scott, he basically looks exactly like this. So that's Scott. If you haven't seen that yet already, that is Scott. Sorry, Scott, I had to do it to you. Shit. Okay, let's see. Justin Kim coming in. Burb Ben is here. Prescription Bourbon. Definitely go check out Prescription Bourbon, guys. Great channel. Let's see. More people coming in. Hey, Kenneth Rathburn is here. How you doing, man? He says he's starting a new job tomorrow. Nervous but excited. Got an Old Foe Barrel Strength Rye and Blue Note Crossroads. Both yummy. Yeah, big fan of, you guys know I'm a big fan of Blue Note, what they're doing. Gabagool, that's right. I got the shirt, Gabagool. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's Italianese for capicola ham. You just call it Gabagool. It's just what you do. Just Plain Shane is here. What's going on? How you doing, bud? Nice to see you again. Karen Ford is here. Awesome. Nice to see you. My Bourbon Journey. He said Dick. Didn't like that. It's okay. I love you, man. Hey, what's up, Peter White? And more people coming in. So yeah, we'll get some questions a little bit later. I'll allow you guys to kind of, ask Ryan and wait, what does that say? Oh, Black Bourbon Family's here. Nice to see you guys. But you guys will get a chance to see Ryan and Kenny and ask them any questions you guys have coming up a little bit later. 152 in the chat so far, and it's climbing. So thanks for everybody tuning in. If you guys have not yet, please hit the like button while you're coming in to hang out. Let's see here. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that, Kenneth. Don't worry about that. I brought that one up. Let's see here. All right. Well, before I bring on the guests, just a quick cheers. Thanks for coming in, Whiskey Wednesday, guys. All right, Ryan. I see what you're doing here. All right, let's bring them on, guys. Let's welcome to the show from Bourbon Pursuit Podcast, Kenny and Ryan. How we doing, fellas?
Doing good. Can we talk about capicola for a second?
Yeah.
Capicola, no. Gabagool.
So it's funny that you say that. So I am half Italian. So my mom's maiden name is Rocca, or it used to be Rocca. And all of my family is from Ohio and Wisconsin. And so they always used to bring just loads of capicola to go and eat for lunch every time. And so like some of my greatest memories are just, it's so weird. Like Ryan, you're probably familiar with just like doing like fried bologna. You just chop some bologna up, like put it on a pan and put it on some bread and you eat it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's the same exact thing in Italy, except all you do is you take some capicola, put it in a frying pan, heat it up, put it between 2 pieces of Italian bread, and that's your sandwich. Like that's what I grew up eating, a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah, that's all you do. I mean, it was kind of the craziest thing. I mean, my, Italian grandmas have like a magical, God rest her soul. I miss my grandma so much. She would, it didn't matter what time of day it was, whatever. Like if somebody showed up, magically, she would whip out a whole tray of cured Italian meats in like 2 seconds. It didn't, I don't know where it came from. She just always had it on hand. She had like a pig. She had like a pig hanging in the basement or something. Save that shit, put it on a plate, and serve it up with some mozzarella, some oil, some bread, little black pepper, balsamic.
Y'all are bougie, man. I was a redneck. We were lucky to get country ham.
Ryan's like, just throw some fucking bologna in a pan and just give it to me.
Yeah. Vienna sausages were our treat.
Nice.
In the can.
Did your grandma can at all? Like canning vegetables and all that
stuff? Oh yeah.
I was about to say, it's like that.
Yeah, you had the secret behind the curtain like bookshelf of sauce and it was all like had the masking tape on it. It was all the mason jars and it was all written with dates, so you knew exactly when she jarred that sauce.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember I got paid like I'd get one ice cream cone if I like peeled and snapped like 10 pounds of green beans. And at the time I'd be like, this is a great deal. And I was like, she got me.
Yeah, dude. The best was when I would go to my grandma's house and she was actually she was canning the sauce and she had this little tiny, this like one tomato at a time grinder that she would just put the tomatoes in, grind it into the vat, and then she would jar it. And man, she looked like her aprons looked like she murdered like 1,000 people. It was covered.
That's great.
I got one more funny like grandma Italian story here. So when my grandparents died, we had to go and clean out their house and everything like that. And so when we ended up going to the basement, opening up the refrigerator, there was a whole wheel of pecorino cheese. I mean, I'm talking like this thick, this wide. And what we did is like the grandkids got around and we grated the entire wheel of pepperoni cheese, put it into jars, and just gave them out to the family because we're like, nobody needs this much cheese. Like it's an insane amount of cheese.
Holy dude, those wheels of trees, those wheel of cheeses, the Pecorino Romanos, like the authentic ones, they're huge.
Yeah. I mean, it weighed probably a solid 20 pounds. I remember.
Oh yeah, easily.
It's a lot of dairy.
So yeah, Kenny, Ryan, thank you guys so much for coming.
We can keep talking about Italian meats and cheeses. If you want.
Yeah, I mean, we can just kind of go on. Yeah, salami. Let's get into some prosciutto. Let's just get into it. Let's plan the next episode. We'll just pair bourbon with some Italian meats.
Oh, I'd be in for that. 100%.
I always said I could live on charcuterie boards.
Yeah, seriously.
Charcutes.
Yeah, charcutes. But yeah, thanks guys for coming on tonight and talking about some stuff going on in the bourbon game in Kentucky, especially. But really, before we kind of get into all that, I really want to talk to you guys a little bit about Pursuit United. I mean, I gotta say, I've reviewed all three of your releases, including obviously the rye too. And all three of them they're just getting better. And the rye, I mean, the sample you sent me, Kenny, honestly, I finished it that day. It was gone. I couldn't stop drinking it. And unfortunately I haven't found a bottle yet because Sealbox is not shipped to Ohio, those bastards. So I can't exactly I just want to say like how impressed I was with both of these releases and also the rye. Just kind of the blending. You have Pursuit United, which was basically, you had your Pursuit series, which was kind of a single barrel. You guys were sourcing barrels, bottling them, getting some unique barrels, and had that series going. Why transition from that into the Pursuit United series? What was the brainchild of all that?
I'll take this one first, and then once we get into United, I'll let Ryan talk about his baby because that's really his. He's the blending master here. So we had started with doing Pursuit series, which is our single barrel offerings. Once we take a break, we're not take a break, but once I turn it over, I'll go grab a few bottles and just be able to put them on camera for folks and stuff like that. But
nice.
It was an opportunity that we kind of just stumbled into. It was very haphazard and wasn't on purpose. We had ended up talking about a particular brand in Memphis that was starting their own private label whiskey for their their liquor store, and we said, this is unique. It's nothing interesting. I should say it's interesting, but it's nothing new. What's old is new again, because grocery store chains, pharmacies, they all used to have their own private label whiskey back in the day. And we kind of just mentioned that a little bit. And about a week later, I get this phone call from a guy, and he goes, hey, I helped build that brand. Would you be interested in doing your own? And we said, tell us more. And so we started going down this path. And long story short, he's a barrel broker. We got to have a really raw deal of being able to go and select barrels and kind of have our cream of the crop of picks. Like, we didn't have to go and just buy 50 barrels and hope the ones that we got were great, which is usually what happens in the source market. We got to go and hand pick every single one of them. So we paid a little bit of a premium for it, but it was totally worth it. And we got to have sort of the lion's share of just kind of whatever we wanted at the time. And so we started going down this path of doing our single barrels. We called them Pursuit series, and each one was an episode in the series. And that kind of is a play connotation on the podcast. Everything's a little loosely connected, and each one also has show notes that kind of gives you an idea of what is in this barrel. We take like one tasting note and try to really expand on it and give our little spin. And we were doing that, and I think we did probably 30-ish single barrel releases until we realized this is a pain in the ass, because as much as any whiskey geek, we're all here. If you're watching this, you are one of us. You're a whiskey geek, and you're just like us. Like, we love single barrels. We love the idea of this is something that is a one-time thing, never going to be around again. We selected it. It's cash strength, unfiltered, yada, yada, yada. Keep going. Well, on the back end, on the operations of what most people don't know, is that single barrels are probably the biggest pain in the ass that you've ever seen in whiskey. Because
hell yeah.
Because it's everything that you've got to dump, you've got to bottle, you got to clean lines, you've got to get labels, and every time we print labels, you have to get at least 250 at the minimum. And the way that we did things, you only get about 150 bottles out of the barrel anyway, so you got to scrap and throw away a bunch of product. And it was just a very over strenuous process of what it is to be able to get these out. And then every single time is like, you've got to tell a story about this particular barrel, and you got to get people on board, and really people want it. And you got to say, it comes from here, it comes from there, it's from this part of the warehouse, it's got this proof, or why is it like. And so it's a huge education aspect. And it just got to the point where the person we were working with said, guys, you've got to come out with a small batch product. And we couldn't agree more, because that is, honestly, it's the only way you can scale. You can't build and that's really what we thought when we started this thing. They said, oh, well, it'd be cool. Like, we'll do, 8 or 10 barrels a year. It'd be kind of good side hustle. We'll make some extra income. But the thing is you can't scale. You can't make a business on single barrels. It's just impossible to do. You have to have something that you can batch and you can take to mass market, and you can create a lot of it once. And that's really where United was born from. And there was a huge process behind that whole thing. And I'll let Ryan sort of take over from there, unless there's a question that you want to toss in there.
Yeah, I mean, so you're going, I totally agree with you. Single barrels are a pain in the ass. I mean, because I've seen it on the, the back end of it. I haven't done it, I haven't done single barrels to the extent that you guys have, kind of doing your own brand, doing labels, glass, all the stuff that gets involved in doing your own releases. But yeah, Pursuit United to me was a nice evolution, because now you can pick and choose, select barrels. You'll have a lot more whiskey to scale it up, to get, more of your bottles out there. There it is. I'll actually, I'll put it in the front of the camera here. You guys can check it out if you haven't seen our bottle yet. There you go. That should focus nicely.
Your camera's a lot better than mine.
Yeah.
It's like Brio webcam or whatever. So.
Real webcam.
You got the Gabuji camera. I got the bologna camera.
All right, back to the gabagool camera.
Gabagool, whatever.
The fried bologna. Yeah, so Ryan, tell us a little bit about the process of Pursuit United, how it came to be. And what I would really love to know, and what I got a lot of questions about, was why the specific distilleries that you guys selected to go into the blend. And you can I'll let Ryan get into that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having us on, Jason. I've loved a big fan of what you do, and I poke my head in time to time, whenever my wife and kids are asleep, see what else is going on.
Yeah, I've seen you lurking in the chat. I see you.
Yeah, you do a great job, and we're honored to be here. So thanks for having us. But
thanks, man. My pleasure.
Yeah, so like Kenny said, things were a pain in the ass. Into the sourcing market with aged whiskey just got depleted. We were really nitpicking on 10 to 14 year Tennessee products, and then it started to become, well, you can't get like, well, can we get 9 or 10, Tennessee product? And he's like, no, we're totally out. And then they're like, can you get a 7-year? No, we're completely out. So it just the source market just got dried up. And two, unless you just wanted to have a product, that was going to be like $200 or $300 a bottle, and we just didn't feel like what was available on the source market was worth that. And so we went down this path of like, okay, we want to do a small batch, but we're going to be sourcing. So what's our options? And, a lot of people, if you're a whiskey geek, a lot of people do MGP, they do Barton as their two main kind of source products. And we were like, we just don't want to do that. That's not that exciting and interesting to us, because a lot of people have already done it and they're doing fantastic jobs at it. The whiskey is fantastic. MGP and Barton make fantastic products. So we're like, we want to do something unique and different. And our barrel broker had been kind of like presenting us with different sourced options at younger ages, like 3 years old, 4 years old. And a lot of them just weren't there for us. But one day he's like, I swear you're going to love this. And we're like, yeah, right.
Here we go again.
Yeah, just send the sample. And so he did. And I mean, first when we got it, it was so dark. Like Kenny was like, look how dark this is. And it's only 4 years old. And so we tried it and we were like, holy cow, it was like 3.5 years old at the time. And I was blown away. And I was like, I think it wasn't, perfect. It was a good distillate for 3.5, 4 years. But I was like,
yeah.
I think this could make a really good, base for a blend. Because I kind of been dabbling in blending, just, screwing around in my house and learning from other people. And so, yeah, we found that, and we were like, it's a Tennessee distillery, a contract distiller. We can't say who it is, but you can probably do your research. It's not from Tullahoma, we say, so that it's not.
So it's not. Yeah, it's not Dickel. So
it's not. Yeah,
that was part of a marketing strategy. We had to put that one out there because everybody thinks.
I don't blame you, because even love it or hate it, George Dickel whiskey. There's a certain,
it's polarizing,
Yeah, there's a certain preconceived notion about it. So I could. That's a smart move, guys.
Yeah, and two, a lot of brands are using it for their source products as well, which we started our brand on that. So we really wanted to get away, because we had a hard enough time selling 14 to 17-year-old Dickel barrels. So how are we going to sell a 4 or 5 year, Dickels? So anyways. Yeah, so then we went down the path of like, all right, well, we can't start a small batch with Tennessee bourbon again, from Kentucky. Like, What do we do? And we had, done some partnership with Finger Lakes. We had sourced a couple single barrels from them. And so I just kind of started playing with some of the samples I had from Finger Lakes and blending it into the, the Tennessee product. And, I came up with this, show it to Kenny, and we're like, yeah, this is really great, but once again, do we want to be two Kentucky boys with a Tennessee and New York, small batch product? That's even weirder than just Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so we're like, we got to have Kentucky in there. And at the time we had bought, we had 4 Heaven Hill barrels. There was, 11 to 12 year Barton on the market, that a lot of people are using still. And we were trying to make it work. And I'd come up with different varieties of blend, and finally got dialed in. And then, we call the brokers and we're like, all right, we're ready to order. And they'd be like, nope, it's sold out. We'll call you when we get some more. And then, so we're just like, we just don't want to be at the mercy of the source market anymore. And at the time too, we had just reviewed a Chicken Cock rye whiskey. I think they had just came out with it, and it was BBC's kind of like first distillate that hit the market.
Yep.
And I was like blown away. I think it was only 2 or 3 years old at the time. And so I called BBC and I'm like, hey, I called Dan. I'm like, hey, this is what, we got going on. We really want a Kentucky component. I know you got to be having stuff that's turning 4 soon. What can you do? And so they invited us down. They're like, yeah, we'd love to work with you guys. We love the show, blah, 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 So we came down, they rolled out, the red carpet, BBC, if you've ever been there, they're just a great hospitable group.
Yeah. I mean, they are just first class from soup to nuts, honestly.
Yeah, totally. Yep. And so they, they gave us a spreadsheet and said, here's all the mash bills we have that are going to be available, we'll have some stuff that's turning 4, but we were kind of looking at the backlog of like, okay, you have that's going to be 4, but how much do you have that's going to be 3? Then how much do you have that's going to be 2? And so we knew that we would be able to like continually have product to kind of, because there's nothing worse than offering a product and then not being able, it be a success and not be able to recreate it. And so we went through some mash bills, found one we liked. And on the spreadsheet, it said, yep, there's inventory, for this to scale for the next 3 to 4 years. And at the time we were like 10,000 bottles. Holy shit. That's a lot for us. We're going.
I mean, when they rolled out those barrels and they said, okay, you should have enough inventory for about 4 years. I mean, did it kind of click like this is real at this point?
Yeah.
Once you see that check clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan's like, oh, I got all this whiskey to blend. And Kenny's like, dude, this is fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
It's scary.
It is scary.
For sure. It's a lot of investment.
Yeah, you see the zeros and you just don't think. I just don't even think about it anymore. I just if I do, then I'll stop. But no, the PB distillate, is really clean. It gave it that great Kentucky bourbon caramel, brown sugar, like typical notes that was missing from the other 2 distillates, and so it just really rounded out the blend entirely, and it made it perfect. And Kenny came up with the name. Actually, we're like, what are we going to call this? And it was like, well, United, because it's, we're blending 3 different states, putting in 3 different distillates. And we thought, what a great concept, we can, because we kind of did this with the Pursuit series. Like, we want to highlight the distilleries because we're not distillers.
Yeah.
We're blenders. We're never going to be distillers. I shouldn't say never, but
we're not going to be.
We're not going to be distillers.
We may own a building one day, but we're not going to be distilling anything.
Clearing checks for your barrels. Now you want to build a distillery?
Yeah, no, I don't. But I always worry about getting cut off from our distillers. That's just my anxiety. But no, so it all, that's how it kind of all came together. And like I said, we had enough product to do, 10,000 barrels a year. I mean, not barrels, bottles a year. And we were like, wow, this how are we going to get, sell this? And so we did a first batch, which was 2,000 bottles, I think, roughly. And it was very popular. It went fast. And then we did another batch that was like 9,000, and it was popular as well. And so we were just like, okay, well, 10,000 wasn't enough. What do we realistically think we can get this to? And so Kenny, the spreadsheet master, went to work and like went on a 10-year roadmap of how much new make we need to lay down each year, how much we need to hold back so we can transition it to a 6-year. How much money are we going to need? Like, it's just, we just kind of went on how can we start to scale and replicate this. I just blabbed for like 10 minutes, but hopefully that gave a good synopsis of
for
kind
sure.
of where we're at.
I mean, and then you guys did the rye. So you used Sagamore.
BBC. Yep.
Yeah, Sagamore and BBC blend.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that again, it's just
that's
one of those
fantastic. That's a fantastic rye. If any of you have not had it, it's to use the word crushable. It's a very crushable rye whiskey. It is sweet. It's spicy. It's got a little bit of everything that you look for. Ryan, what's your blending style? Like, how do you kind of start with the base and then you tweak it from there? Or is there, because the one constant I found in all 3 of your blends that I've tried, the 2 bourbons and the rye, is balance. It's sweet, it's spicy, you get a nice little finish on it, nothing overpowers one another. And I feel like knowing the distillate, knowing the distilleries that you picked, if you kind of look for it, you kind of taste each of those DNAs in your blends.
Yeah, so sure. With both of these products, the way I kind of, I've learned from some of the best is that you got to, for your base product, you got to find something that's the least offensive. It's not going to be the best, like most robust flavor profile, but it's going to be something that's just, very average.
Wait, any home blenders watching, or anyone that's going to do a blend for Blend Again in 2022, I want you to listen to this right now.
That's right.
You're hearing it from the best of average blenders that you've ever heard. No, I'm just kidding.
The best average blender on the planet is telling you how to make a good blend right now.
I'm the top unemployed home blender. So take that for what it's worth. But no, I just so I think the market too really likes sweetness. In bourbon or rye or whatnot. But some people like spicy, but big bold, but they're kind of on the outlier. So I just start with a mostly sweet base, a sweet product that doesn't have a ton of spiciness. It doesn't have a ton of oak. It doesn't have, polarizing flavors one way. And then from there, I can start to add in small pieces. I kind of look at barrels and I say, okay, this one's kind of fruity. This one's kind of spicy. That one's kind of got some charcoal or smokiness to it, or it's got some oak influence. And then you just start kind of like adding pieces and figuring out how they're going to react. And it takes a ton of time to to kind of get that dialed in, because when you start blending, you'll be amazed. Like just even like a 5 milliliter drop of one barrel will throw it off balance completely. It's like if you ever look at a Four Roses like small batch limited edition or something, look on there and there'll be like 3% of this or 2% of that,
it's amazing to me. I was lucky enough to have Nancy Fraley on the channel, and she sent me samples of a Joseph Magnus cigar blend. And she we went through the entire blending process right then and there. So she sent me her base, and then she sent me some of the old whiskey that she blends in there with the different finishes. And then she was literally like, add a drop of this, add a drop of that, and then just see what happens. And then it's totally, you're completely right. It completely changed. It can one drop or 2 drops can completely change the entire flavor profile of a blend. How long are you letting these sit before you go back to try it to see if it is what are you trying it immediately, or are you kind of letting it sit for a week before you're going back and trying it?
That's typically I'll let you answer, Ron.
No. So typically I'll try them right then and there because I'm too anxious. I don't want them like
that'd be me. I'm like, I got to taste it right now.
But then I'll let them sit for a day or two.
Do a little of this, and about a minute later, you're ready.
Literally, what I'll do is I'll put it in a sample bottle and I'll do this, like just shake it up, really good, and then once I try it, I'll be like, that one's good, or I'll be like, that's bad. Start over. But when it's like, that's pretty good, I'll let it sit for a day or two and go back to it and revisit. But and same thing with the rye. That there was a ton of ryes on the market, that are big, spicy, fruity, like MGP ryes, spearmint bombs, and so the Sagamore distillate, gosh, it's even they have a 50-50 blend of 95.5 rye, 52 rye, and they do like a 50-50 of those, but both of those are just so sweet on the palate. They got like grape, rock candy, brown sugar notes, and so that's what the 52% was kind of the base, and then just kind of adding the 95.5 in different ratios to kind of add some of those typical rye characteristics that you get, but not overpowering. I want it to be very sweet and bourbon-esque, like a Kenny says his favorite rye is Booker's rye, and I love Knob Creek ryes, and so that was kind of and Michter's like ryes are some of my favorite, and so that's kind of was my target, I guess. Not to say that I got there, but
So Kenny goes from the charcuterie board to my favorite rye is Booker's rye.
Let's just go ahead and pick like the most expensive thing that's ever on the market.
Let's just replicate that. Ryan, can we do it? Let's do that,
He's like, again, get back in there. It's not Booker's rye yet.
You got some 15-year Kentucky rye sitting around. That'd be
back to the drawing board, Ryan. Get the hell in there, or you're not getting paid. Let's go.
Yeah, and two, Kenny tries to give me way more credit than I deserve on the blending, but I have Kenny's picky ass palate to like keep me in check, and like always, like he's got one of the best palates in the game, and he's being able to let him try it, or Fred Minnick try it, or Blake and Jordan and all those, Nick and Eric and everybody, Brian Hara on the round table. We're blessed with such a great community that we can bounce these concepts and have proof of concepts before we kind of take it mainstream. So
Absolutely.
you
And I
know,
think
it's
that
not
show
just
that
me; it's a whole community
it
behind us.
definitely shows in the final product for sure. So yeah, congrats on the success of Pursuit United. What do you guys got? What's the next release for Pursuit United? Can you divulge any of that info?
Yeah, I think that's probably our problem, is that we're transparent to a fault, is what it comes down to it.
Yeah.
I mean, and
So
I'm
is
sure
it
that,
you have another bourbon coming out, or another rye, or both, or what's going on?
yeah, a little bit of both. We'll talk about it. And I think that it's probably also a good idea to plug. So we launched a second podcast not too recently ago called Behind the Pursuit.
Yeah.
So if you're interested on what it takes to build a bourbon brand and everything that we've been through, and we talk about the struggles, the highs, the lows, everything that I think the best thing that the feedback that we've gotten is that somebody said, I was thinking about starting my own brand and I listened to it. I'm not going to do it anymore. So we either did really good by shoving people away from this and not making them do it, and so we can have more market share, or we're actually giving good information. So it's one or the other.
Ignorance is bliss.
It's the opposite. It's really good information.
Yeah.
So we are currently going through the process, and right now I'm sure everybody's heard about the glass shortage, and that is what we're sitting in right now of waiting for. So we've got 10 pallets of glass that are sitting in a warehouse that we own, and then we have another 16 pallets that we're waiting for that should have been delivered in January that say they're going to be delivered in March. Fingers crossed that actually happens. We'll see what happens. So that's one little component of the puzzle here. There's another piece of the puzzle, and that's corks. You know, the toppers that go on these. So when we ordered these, I ordered 40,000 of these back in December.
That's crazy.
Because I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and start planning now for next year, and we'll go ahead and get that taken care of. Come to find out, it is a 21 to 25 week lead time for corks right now. And so we're like, well, that puts us to about May before we could actually do anything if it ever comes in.
Yeah, save that cork, Jason. Don't throw it away.
I'm gonna put this on secondary.
We'll take 5 cents for every use cork.
Maybe the bottles too. Who knows?
What if you went synthetic, or is that something you didn't want to do?
So we actually went down that path before. I'm glad you said something like that. So I'll kind of show when I talk about the Pursuit series earlier. Like, this is kind of an idea of like what we're doing Pursuit series. I know that Light probably just washed it out right there, but we actually went to the point where we went back and got real corks. Actually, I just pulled up a synthetic one, but that's a synthetic cork.
Oh, yeah.
But we ended up buying a bunch of real corks for the last round, but that's because we ran into this huge kind of gap. They were like, well, we can get you synthetic ones real quick. And we're like, okay, fine, we'll do synthetics. At this point, I don't really want to jeopardize our packaging and our branding anymore, and I just want to stick with it. I don't want to make these little subtle changes, and I just want to make sure that we have a consistent product that's going out. And so I said, well, we'll wait the extra month to be able to get real cork. It's all about the customization, about what it takes, because they even said they're like, wait, we have stock cork if you want the stock. And I was like, I really don't want to do that either. Like, let's not jeopardize the brand or anything like that. So we'll make sure that we can kind of keep some consistency going there. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of the two things that are slowing us down. So we are targeting to be able to bottle both bourbon and rye in July, and potentially doing some single barrels in July as well. Again, everything is kind of resting on whether we can get our dry goods in time to make sure that can happen. Fingers crossed we can happen, and then everything will be ready to go by the end of the year. We're going to have about the same exact size release for Pursuit United Bourbon this time, which is going to be somewhere around 11 to 12,000 bottles. Last year when we did United Rye, it was it's kind of like when we did United Bourbon. We did a pilot. How well is this going to be when this first goes out? Thankfully, it was as good as and better than we probably ever hoped for. And that was around 2,000 bottles. So we had projected to triple it this year. However, after having some good conversations with our folks at Sagamore, and we said, any chance you could even double what you were going to offer us this time? And they said, I think we could probably find something. And so thankfully we're going to 6X it. And so we're going to be probably around the same size of bourbon. So it's probably about 11 or 12,000 bottle run for United Rye this time as well.
Yeah, Brian Tracy over at Sagamore is a good dude.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah,
the whole team over there is great.
This is actually the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club. This is our Sagamore Rye barrel pick. I just got this today. We haven't released it yet, but see that
you see that big number 7 up there?
You see that nice big 7 up there?
I swear it is something that I don't know why people are sleeping on it.
I don't understand either. It's
because it's 7-year MGP, their own sort of like custom mash bill that they have going on there. There's all kinds of people that are chasing 4 or 5 year 95.5 and 4 or 5 year 36%. Not to say that it's not bad, but it's like, y'all, give me a break. Like, they've got a lot of good stuff with a higher age number on it, and it's just sitting there at a lower price.
And I love the blending aspect of it. I love the blend of the 95.5 with the sweeter mash bill. Just gives it such a nice, rich, creamy complexity and that balance that that we kind of look for in a really good rye whiskey. And like you said, the price is right. I don't understand why people sleep on it. I still think there's very big things for Sagamore coming down the pipeline. So hopefully we'll see that. But
especially when they start transitioning, because here's another funny story is that so we were asked to not release our rye until they had released their own rye because
the bottled and bond that was all theirs.
Exactly, because they said we can't have you releasing our whiskey before we release our own. And so we said, sure, not a problem. We can do that. And so, they released their bottled and bond. And then shortly after is when we started releasing United Rye and started bringing their name along with it as well.
Yeah. So quick, funny story about this pick. So myself, Scott, and Dusty Dan, who has also a great channel, who does a lot of reviews on some old Dusty bottles. We went down to Sagamore. Brian, he kind of invited us down there. We went to see the Sagamore farm and how that amazing place, the Vanderbilts, built it. Then he took us to the distillery the next day. But before that, we had a nice little out. We went out in the evening. The day after Brian kind of took us out on the town. We went to dinner, and then we went to a couple places, got a few drinks, and finished off the night with a cigar. And then the next morning, Scott and Dan initially, they woke up so sick, like death, like white, like just like Dan. Apparently, I was passed out. So apparently, we were like sharing a room, and apparently he was throwing up the whole night. I didn't hear a damn thing. And we woke up. We're going.
I like where this is going.
Yeah, we're sitting at breakfast, and Dan is just sitting at the table, like, dude, I'm so sick right now. Like he couldn't even look at food. It was terrible. And then
that's why we need our wives around to keep us in check.
Yeah, and then I was feeling fine at the time. And then Scott also woke up pretty sick. And then we get to the distillery. He gives us the whole tour. And Dan and Scott are struggling. And I'm still feeling okay. And then Brian's like, boom, we're going to surprise you guys. We're going to do a Sagamore barrel pick for you. Here are 4 selections. Let's go. And then Dan and Scott are like, they couldn't even look at it. Now, I don't know what happened, but we're tasting through this stuff, and it was all 4 of the barrels that we had were just delicious. And we ultimately picked this one, but then it wasn't I did not avoid the sickness because we went out to lunch right after we did the selection, and then whatever they had just hit me. I don't know what happened, what it was, but oh my God, it was a mess. But,
sounds like a great trip, honestly.
It was actually a great trip, but man, we felt like after we were completely honored to get a single barrel pick from Sagamore. We were really happy, but then I felt like we couldn't show enough appreciation because we felt like, oh shit. So it was terrible.
You're like, Brian, under normal circumstances, we would be thrilled, but
yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. This would be great, but right now we just
you made us party too hard last night.
Yeah. Let's see. ADHD whiskey. How much do you think a box of 2022 EURES 17 will sell for in secondary? Box bourbon coming in hot. That will probably go for, I don't know, was that a case of 6, a box? Like a box of wine, you want to put like a box of Eagle Rare 17? Is that what you're talking about, ADHD?
Or he's putting it in a bag.
He's got wine. The best ideas.
Yeah. Slap the bag.
All right, guys. So thanks for that insight. Real quick, speaking of blends, I do want to, anybody watching here in Ohio, Columbus, I do want to call this bourbon out. It's kind of hard to see the label, but this is, I don't know if you guys could see this. This is from Watershed Distillery.
Black on black.
Yep, here in Columbus, Ohio. So black on black label, kind of hard to read. But basically, you guys know Marianne Eves from formerly of Castle and Key. So she's kind of going around the country, and I believe she picked 7 distilleries. She picked 7 distilleries, craft distilleries, to visit and to craft their own custom blend using their own distillate. So she was picking some different barrels, and then she kind of found the one she wanted, and she made a custom blend for each one of those distilleries. Right here, Watershed in Columbus, Ohio, was one of those distilleries to be picked. So today, actually opened up the lottery at Watershed Distillery. So if you live in Columbus, Ohio, and you're interested in this bottle, the lottery opened today at Watershed. So you can go to the website, enter the lottery to get this bottle. I'm not sure of the bottle count. So you have a minimum age here of about 4 years, a little bit older. But I got to say, it's a fantastic blend. It is just cherry, caramel, apple, a little bit of spice. You get some of the grain because it is a younger whiskey, but it's more sweet than it is of that savory flavor. Just a great whiskey. So if any of you guys have not entered the lottery to do it yet, it's a really good bottle. So good luck.
Yeah, there's good things coming down the road for Watershed. My good friend Aaron Harris is now master distiller there, and he comes from he's had such a great background in the bourbon world. Started Barton, then really helped Luxro get their distillery off and going, and now he's trying to revamp. I shouldn't say revamp, but kind of get Watershed to where it needs to be. Moving forward. So I think they needed big things for them. Yeah, they needed to shift a little bit. I don't know if you guys remember they were using spelt in their mash bill when they first started. So spelt is I guess it's kind of indigenous to Ohio. So they wanted to use something that screamed Ohio, which was spelt, and just really wasn't working in their younger stuff. And I'm glad they got Aaron in to kind of shift it to a more traditional mash bill, because now their stuff is just getting better and better with age. So, Tom's Foolery is another great. I keep meaning to get up there and visit them, see what they're working on. Tom's Foolery has a great distillery as well. But speaking of new distilleries, new labels, I warned you guys about this segment. It is time for what's to see on the TTB.
Can we get some more Office memes going?
I know. I love Michael Scott. I had to use that.
It's the best. It's the best. Man, I used to watch that back in, I think it was just like post-grad. I mean, that's, 10. How old am I now? Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Well, first things first, let's talk about a couple just straight up new releases before we get into some of the TTB labels, just to kind of get some reactions from you guys. Okay. First, it's kind of big news out of Uncle Nearest. And here's the new label. So for those of you guys that don't know, Uncle Nearest is going to be rolling out its own whiskey, making or using its own distillate. So the 2022 expressions will use 4 different recipes. We'll release Uncle Nearest Rye, Uncle Nearest Single Barrel Rye, and then new, more widely available Uncle Nearest Single Barrel Whiskey. Also, you'll see it comes with this new look. Kind of a different label to kind of, commemorate the shift into their own distillate, surrounded by a horseshoe. If you see the horseshoe, kind of signifying its Tennessee roots, as well as Edie Butler's signature. So the rollout will continue throughout 2022. So what are you guys' thoughts on Uncle Nearest and where you think they're headed?
Well, I'm glad they put a horseshoe on it, because everything needs a horse to sell a bourbon, right? I mean, that's just an obvious thing.
Even in Tennessee, I mean, you need a horseshoe.
That's right. Those walking horses. I mean, I've had some of their older source stuff. They do they did a great job, blending those together. They've done a fantastic job marketing the brand and the story. You got to love the story. And There's a great How I Built This, on that. If you haven't heard, that's an awesome episode. Yeah, I'm interested to see. You're always, when you're going, when brands are transitioning from a source product to their own, you're always, interested to see how they approach it. And because some people have done it right and some people have whiffed really hard. So we'll see.
And of course, to a true American whiskey press release, our own whiskey began fully maturing late last year, and what we have in our bottles now is what we believe is the best whiskey we've ever released. So,
I hope
I love hyperbole.
Yeah,
I mean,
they said about their own stuff. If they were like, well, that's all right. I mean,
all right. Next one up for you guys. Here we go. New release time. It is the new Angel's Envy. So this is the new limited release. The what we have here is the Angel's Envy announces the release of its rye whiskey finished in ice cider casks. So basically, this is a 7-year-old 95.5 rye whiskey for 364 days in an ice cider cask from Vermont-based Eden Specialty Ciders. So this is the 4th release in the Cellar Collection. So ice cider, for you guys that don't know what that is, I had to friggin' look it up.
I'm glad you did, because we didn't know it.
Yeah, it's a dessert style cider that is produced primarily in the northern U.S. and Canada. French oak casks used to finish this release were used by Eden Specialty Ciders to create an ice cider from tart, late season Northern Spy apples that had been naturally cold concentrated in Vermont before I can't even read all this shit. Before partial fermentation and aging. Inspired by the unique climate-driven elements of ice cider production, Angel's Envy packages its rye whiskey in frosted glass bottle and this beautiful commemorative gift box. Limited release, 6,000 bottles total, beginning on February 25th. A total of 500 bottles will be reserved for the pre-sale lottery at the distillery, $250 at 107 proof.
I
don't ever want to read that ever again.
That was a lot. We actually talked about this one on This Week in Bourbon when we talked about it as well. But it was, I think, a week or so ago, and they didn't have a price tag on it or anything like that. And I think Ryan had the same exact kind of reaction, like, what the hell is ice cider? I didn't look it up.
But now I see it's just a bunch of apples in a block of ice.
So
it's like cold.
It reminds me of, like, so everybody knows Wade Woodard, probably the person that is, I don't want to say anything bad. He's definitely a very smart guy. He's definitely the way to kind of put it. He's definitely an antagonist of bourbon and everything like that. And so he used to do things that, like when Parker's came out with their orange curacao finished bourbon, and he did his own, where he said, I just took some whiskey, added a little bit of orange curacao, swung it around, and it was, if not better, or just as good as this $150 bottle. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, if I just go get some really good apple cider and mix it with some 95.5 MGP, am I going to get something that is just remotely close to this?
I feel like
you got to freeze the cider first. You got to freeze the cider. And then
you got to freeze the cider, and then
you got to make the cubes and then put them in there.
I feel like he put some kind of like like he had some weird bourbon cocktail like in the fall, and like, oh, bourbon and apple, that'd be a great idea, and just went with it.
I mean, I'll be honest, like, I've had plenty of apple cider with some bourbon mixed into it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I haven't had it the opposite way, where it's just all bourbon and just a little bit of apple cider.
I mean, I gotta say though, that bottle's beautiful.
The packaging.
They do a good job of packaging.
Yeah.
I mean, packaging. I mean, look at that thing. Come on.
Yeah.
I hope it comes with a like some apples and ice. I mean, why not?
Just dry ice.
Yeah, just dry ice and a few apples. Like, make your own experiment.
All right, so let's go to a couple other labels here. So one of my favorite producers out of
Wisconsin, get us in trouble, Jason.
What's that?
You're just trying to get us in trouble, aren't you?
Well, we don't have to say nothing. I mean, listen, you guys are honest on I'm just trying to get first reactions here.
I know. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
I'm not good with first reactions.
Here we
I'm
go.
too
So
honest.
one of my favorite distilleries out of Wisconsin's Driftless Glen, they are actually coming out with a wheated straight bourbon, 5-year-old wheated. I absolutely love what Driftless Glen is doing. I'm not sure if you guys have much experience with them. What do you guys think of? a wheater coming out because I think they're rye. We did a single barrel rye pick, and I've had others that can. I mean, everyone talks about how great that Jack Daniel's single barrel proof rye was. Man, that Driftless Glen barrel proof rye, some of those single barrels, you could put it right up against that stuff.
Yeah, there's something that's going on in Wisconsin that hasn't been discovered yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're using smaller barrels too, aren't they? Are they using 30 gallon maybe? I can't remember. Either way, we did 2 barrel selections from them as well. I think the thing that I don't know if it scares me about wheat, but typically wheated bourbons need a little bit more time to mature.
Yeah.
Now that's at 5 years. And I only say that because when we're talking to some of the big Kentucky distilleries, we all know we talk to them a lot. A lot of wheated bourbons, you really don't mature until 7, 8, 9 years old.
At the minimum.
Yeah. And so Maker's Mark is usually around that point as well. So I think that's something that I'm interested to try it. I'm not gonna say anything bad until we had a chance to give him a fair shot here.
Yeah,
we're
totally.
huge fans of. We picked a great bourbon barrel. My gosh, that was a really good, just earthy, different. It was just different, and it was really good. And the ryes are fantastic.
Yeah, we picked this one here, which is our Driftless Glen pick, and we had we called it the Black Forest Bugaboo. Because I kept saying Baraboo wrong, and I was calling it Bugaboo like an asshole.
That's because that's where they're based on the back. Yep.
But it tasted like it gave us like these really sweet, like cherry chocolate donut flavors, and that's where that one was born.
Bugaboo, isn't that like a Destiny's Child song or something?
And before you say it, you're gonna be like, I don't want no scrubs.
That's right.
Shoes on my feet, I bought it. I don't know how that song goes.
Hey, ladies.
Here's a brand I was looking up. Old Hamer.
Okay,
that's a new one.
It's Old Hamer over here.
Old Hamer. So this is cask strength bourbon whiskey. They're releasing a 7-year. This is obviously sourced from MGP, but most of their stuff is actually light whiskey. From what I was reading, it's called from West Fork Whiskey Company. So these guys are putting out a 7-year age stated, as you see here, a 7-year age stated, bourbon whiskey. So this is a 7-year MGP product, 118.4 proof, cask strength. So if it is, I couldn't find any other information as far as like a mash bill, but if it's a 7-year MGP cask strength, I'd be willing to try that.
It'll sell.
It's got old on the name, so it's got to be good.
It's got old on the name.
It says old, but how is 7 old? Like, I guess, how do we define what old is when we had to put a number next to it?
I think in today's market,
7's probably old.
If you're like 6 or above, you're like old now.
I mean, old granddad. I don't even think that might be 6, and so we're already...
Yeah, so like bourbon's like dog years now.
Yeah, exactly. It says 6 years old, but it's really like 12. So you're okay.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. It's that heat cycled warehouse, right? That's what they have. Those heat cycled MGP tanks that they have.
All right, here's one we're gonna get into. I don't know if you guys know this dude, or I saw this pop up. What is this?
That's the label.
That's the label.
That's the label.
Dan Kids Chugs.
I only know this because I have seen some of his stuff on Instagram.
Okay.
But I don't know much about him except that all he does is just do chugging videos, and that's it. I need
this can't be good. Did you see like when Kylie Jenner like just drank her tequila out of straw and she just got like destroyed? This can't be good for Dan Kids Chugs. If they try to cancel Kylie Jenner over a straw and her tequila, Dan Chugs don't stand a chance.
I mean,
that's not responsible drinking, Dan.
Yeah.
So
if you're chugging it, you're not enjoying it.
So what's the 3? Does that mean it's just 3 years old? Like, what the fuck what is that? Is that just his thing? 3?
I think it might be his 3rd release.
Oh, 3rd release. Okay. So yeah, single barrel bourbon. This is also MGP, which just shows me that MGP will fucking sell anything to anyone.
Yeah, here's the thing. Dan looks like he could kick my ass from that drawing, so
I'm we're not going to say anything else.
Yeah. Dan I'm sure he's a great guy, and keep doing what you're doing, bud. Good luck with that.
But it's Chugs with a Z.
Yeah, it's Chugs with a Z. Yeah.
Double G, double Z.
Oh yeah, I didn't even
Double
see the
D, double Z.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It looks like a good T-shirt though. I like it.
It's like an 80s Miami throwback.
Yeah, it's like a Hollister or something.
A Hollister label. Look at that.
Yeah.
And he's got. You guys see the hat? How it says BRBN Bourbon.
It
makes
flat
sense.
bill. Love it.
You stay
I
classy.
got my flat bill on.
You stay classy, Santiago. All right. So one other one, and I don't know if you guys may know a little bit about this, but Old Elk is releasing a single barrel program with finishes. So this popped up, Old Elk, and then I was looking on this cask finished single barrel selection. So it's their high malt mash bill. This one, I mean, these are obviously FPO for position only, 6 years, 4 months. And then the back of the label was an Old Elk straight bourbon finished in cognac barrels.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh gosh.
We got 3 of those coming.
So, I mean, I don't want to throw anything out there, but that might actually be our barrel.
Yeah, we picked a cognac.
We picked a cognac barrel.
That's
was
your
their
barrel,
high
you
malt
think?
mash bill. That might be around that.
Is that your
age.
barrel?
Yeah, but we're not
Is that your
first.
barrel number?
We're
472?
not first last.
Yeah, we're not by first last. Well, that's a placeholder, I think.
I know, I was kidding.
Yeah.
So you guys went to pick one of these. How was that experience?
Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Old Elk is run. They're like Sagamore. They're in BBC. They're so hospitable. Great group of folks running that place. One of the sharpest CEOs. He's right, like with Brian Tracy, and they're just great people. And Greg Metz. I mean, gosh, I got to blend with him. What a bucket list,
Dude, you got to blend with Greg Metz. Wow.
Yeah.
I thought just doing a pick with him was cool virtually, but doing a blend with him, that's pretty sick.
Yeah, I got to blend against him, which is kind of weird, but it was good. It was.
You want to brag a little bit?
How did that
Ryan?
turn out?
You want to brag a little bit?
It turned out good for me, but I don't want to brag though. No,
Ryan's blend actually beat Greg's.
Really?
Yeah, it was really kind of cool. We had the whole round table, so we had the guys from Breaking there. We had Blake from Seal Box, and so we were all there. I think we ended up selecting 7 or 8 barrels. One of them was that cognac barrel. We ended up doing a blend with a few other ones. I think we ended up like leaving with like a 7 or 8-year-old wheat whiskey at the very end of the day too. I mean, it was something like that. It was a really
9-year.
Cool... 9 year. Oh, was it 9?
Whiskey.
See,
yeah,
that's how much I remember.
Holy crap! Well, I'm a patron, so I'll be in line for those barrels, man.
Yeah, man, it was a really cool experience, and yeah, they
got a great facility and
roll out the red carpet for us too.
Yeah, I mean, Old Elk is easily one of my I've slowly kind of tried more of their stuff. I mean, we did 2 single barrels last year. We did a bourbon and a wheat whiskey, and they both were just delicious. So I could only imagine how good these finished. I mean, the regular finished products that came out, I was a fan of. I actually enjoyed the cognac more than the Armagnac and the port. So I'm kind of glad that you got some single barrels of that. Yeah.
Yeah. We tried both the Armagnac and their port, and I think another one they might have had, but we all landed on cognac as our favorite between all of us. So that's how that one happened. I'm glad you said that, because we were fans of the wheat whiskey for, I think, probably 2+ years ago. Yeah. But the bourbon wasn't there yet for us. I don't know what it was.
I agree.
It needed a little more time.
That high malt mash bill is a little bit, it's different. I think if you're not, used to it, like coming on, and even like, I know you guys are huge fans of Chattanooga, like I am. Chattanooga uses a high malt, but it's different with those different types of malts that they use in their bourbons, where Old Elk is just kind of a straight high malt. So it's a little bit of a different type of flavor profile.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, and their wheated bourbons really made a turn for the better. Holy cow.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
I was like, these could take on Weller 107,
I gotta ask you, do you think, well, let me show you this label first before I ask you this question. Here we go.
All right, here we go.
Oh boy.
Heaven Hill 17-year barrel proof.
Well, this is news. I didn't see this one yet.
You haven't seen this one yet? Yeah. So
you got to understand, Jason, the way we run things is I don't like to put it out there unless there's a press release behind it or there's something like official, because the TTB is just a TTB. Nothing means it's ever gonna see the light of day. It's just
I mean, but That's
we
the fun
definitely
of just scouring the TTB and just
Oh,
finding label. I mean, you never know what's going to be real and what's going to be bullshit. So
yeah, we've
Don't be
gotten burned
practical,
before when
Kenny.
people send us hate mail from distilleries. And I'm just like, you know what? Never again. I'm just.
But I
gonna
mean,
make a press
this
release.
is supposed to be a $250 release. We've seen the blue labels that come in the wood box, and they're never really only that price. They're usually priced way higher than that. But
I'm all for
a
a
17-year-old cask strength. Oh, I'm sorry, 100. Well, it says barrel proof, but there's really no designation for barrel proof, so they're calling 125 barrel proof.
Well, technically, what changed in the TTB rules? What, last week? I think it. Or wait, it goes into effect in a few weeks or something.
Yeah, it goes into effect in a few weeks, so they do have a new designation coming up.
Right. No, I think this is awesome. I think this is going to be. I think 17 is actually probably a good sweet spot for this. We've talked about the old Parker's 24, which was, in my opinion, it was a bomb. Like it really wasn't that good. It just had this like musty funkiness that I wouldn't want. And then they had the 27-year release that just happened to be like 3 years later than the Parker's release. However, some there was actually that ended up tasting better than the Parker's release from what I recall. So I think 17 is actually going to be probably a pretty good sweet spot for it, to be honest with you. And it's going to have probably all the complexity that a lot of us geeks are really going to go crazy for.
Heaven Hills is one of the distilleries I like at an older age. I like when it gets to like 15 plus for sure.
For me, it peaks at like 8 to 14, and then after that, it kind of gets too oaky. But Kenny loves oak, so 17 will be right up his alley.
Well, I mean, you said it right. I mean, you said after 14. Actually, it probably becomes a gamble for them because I don't know how many times that we've talked to Mike Sawney and a few other people at Heaven Hill, and y'all, I think this is probably one of the biggest things is when they talk about finding barrels for Elijah Craig 23 year, like. You'd be surprised. More of them get dumped into Evan Williams than actually make it into Elijah Craig 23 year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that. I mean, I could see
label.
some of that stuff just getting just way over oaked. Yeah, Tim, we're gonna get into this a little bit once we're done going to these labels. But my question for you guys: do you think Heaven Hill sucks at weeded bourbons?
No, absolutely not. I think they. Well, actually, let's see. As in, like for the Larceny brand, I think
Larceny brand. I think they're getting on the right track, but I think the beginning and also
old fits and all that sort of stuff. No,
I mean, I think old fits with age is really good, but the 8 and 9 year. I mean, the 8 year actually last year was actually a nice.
Yeah,
release.
The 8 year was one of my favorites.
Yeah, the 8 year was really good.
They've been polarizing for sure.
Yeah,
they've been
polarizing release. But
I mean, you're probably right. It takes some age. Here's the thing: is I don't mind even the Larceny barrel proof. I think it's an okay offering for what it is. Even the regular Larceny is great for people that are just getting introduced to bourbon. The Larceny barrel picks are definitely hit and miss. When we had a chance to be able to do one, we had 3 barrel samples sent to us, and there was really only one out of that crowd that I would have even put my name behind, and that's what we did, and I was very happy with it at the end of the day. But I do agree that the old Fitzgerald releases have been nothing but spectacular, and I think that there's an opportunity for them to be able to excel in this category. When you mentioned wheat, wheated bourbon's one thing. I really think they do a really good job of wheat whiskey. I think Bernheim is probably one of my favorites over there. And now that they do a Bernheim barrel proof, when you go to the distillery, I think it's.
I got to try that I got to try that for the first time a few weeks ago, and I was like, man, I don't think I've ever really tasted anything like this. It was different, but I was also coming off the Elijah Craig barrel proof and the Larceny. I actually bought the Larceny barrel proof pick that was there because it was a really nice single cask.
Yeah.
So
some of those
I grabbed that one, but
are...
the B21 and the C21 from last year of the Larceny barrel proof, I felt like it's starting to get on the right track. I mean, I know Heaven Hill is, historically when you look at weeded bourbons, they're going in the barrel at a lower proof. Heaven Hill's going in there 125 for even their weeded products. So I don't know if that has something to do with it, with the younger nature of the weeded products, really not just coming of age. And
I'm sure
maybe the last couple releases that we saw last year, because they are small batching it, maybe just the way they're blending it is just a little bit better. But I just hope it kind of continues down this path because, there's just not a lot of cask strength weeders, available. I mean, I know you guys are big fans of the Rebel and the Rebel products from Lux Row, which I love too. I think I
Just
missed you
happened to
guys
be
by a
about
couple. You guys just
7-year-old
did
Heaven
you guys
Hill.
just-
Yeah.
You guys just did a pick there. I probably missed you by a couple weeks. We were just there to do a pick there. Man, how good is that shit? It is so good.
Great. It's fantastic.
It's one of those things that people sleep on because people don't know much about Lux, and it's all the same great source stuff.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is that when we were even there last time, they said we might have been one of the last few picks that got the last of the source product that you can select from because they're going to start transitioning over to their own stuff relatively.
Yeah, they're starting to get over to their own stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, last label, and this is kind of an easy one, but I kind of want to get your thoughts on this one, which is this is the 2022 Makers finishing staff. This will be 10 Virgin toasted American oak staves. So essentially the way I'm reading this is we're just looking at a toasted Maker's mark. 110.6 proof, deep caramelized barrel notes accented with some toastiness and a warm finish. I read that to me is that could come into play as kind of more of a. Now I know they have used some different toasted variations. They did like an infrared type heat source on last year's versions, but this is just taking 10 pure toasted staves and throwing them in that barrel. And what do you guys? I think what Maker's Mark is doing is absolutely brilliant. I mean, these guys, you guys know they barrel and they have their flavor vision. That's a kind of term that they throw around a lot at the distillery. Basically, they rotate their barrels because they're always going for flavor consistency. And if you go from barrel to barrel, it's actually pretty amazing because most single barrels aren't like that. So Maker's Mark strives for that consistency, and this was a nice way to kind of introduce some different flavors to their single barrel program.
Yeah. Anytime you use the word deep and toasted in the same sentence, Ryan can't keep his wallet in his pocket.
Yeah, it's like reminds me of getting my club sandwich. Can I have it toasted? Yeah,
just toast everything.
I agree with you, Jason. And they got the benefit, of being right next to ISC. They've leveraged that, relationship to, with the finishing staves and different staves. This is the first time I think I've seen them just say barrels and not staves finished. So I think you're just gonna, the general market has just, clearly shown that toasted is what they want, and so I just think you're gonna see more and more toasting, wood finishing, this to kind of, there's
until the next trend comes. Who knows?
Well, too, there's a lot of these distilleries just started pumping out more juice, 3, 4, 6 years ago, and you're trying to meet demand. Well, how do you get a 4-year whiskey to taste like a 6? You put it in a secondary barrel, or you throw some staves, or you do something to give some extra deeper flavors. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I think it's brilliant because there's a lot of good flavors. I've loved all the wood, the wood finishing, whatever Makers is calling it. I can't remember, but I've been big fans of all of them, really.
Yeah. Chris Cox, it's not that they keep themselves from single barrels. It's that they strive for consistency to a point where it's almost, it's like OCD. So they try to get extreme consistency from barrel to barrel. So if we all went in and tried to do a single barrel pick from 3 or 4 different barrels, chances are they're not going to have a lot of variation. So, I mean, I'm sure there's some there, but not enough to make it like a really interesting off-profile Makers, which is why they introduced the staves.
Yeah, I think that's also the goal that they wanted to do is they didn't want to just be another single barrel program. Yeah. They wanted to create something that's unique and unique to Makers. So that was their intention all along. It wasn't just to be another, these barrels sat next to each other for 3 years and now they taste just a little bit different. So you got to figure out which one that you like.
Yeah, which one you like.
They wanted to create something that's unique for them.
Yeah, I know Fred is all about getting one that's at that. He tried that 12-year and it blew his mind, and now he won't stop talking about it. I just don't think Makers will ever release something like that because I think the Samuels are they're so laser focused on what they expect from Makers. I don't know.
Not maybe in today's climate either.
Exactly.
In today's climate, when you have to get everything out the door and you got to satisfy global demand, no way.
Yeah, especially Makers being the global brand that they are. So, but
Yeah. Speaking of wood finishing, you got one right in front of you, Jason.
Yeah,
This
this is
is
the
in the BBC
Bardstown.
one.
This is the Bardstown Triple Stave. I just picked this up. Actually, won this in an auction here in Ohio, which was kind of nice because I
Nice.
didn't grab this when I was at the distillery, so I'm like, oh, I'll grab this and raise some money here. Yeah, this is my first time I'm having it, and actually second time. Jeffrey Wack, if he's in the chat, he did send me a sample. It's fantastic. It's got like this nice little smoky note to it, which I definitely dig.
I really feel that Danny over there is really started harnessing his what we say. Ryan's starting to find his true calling with blending, and I think Danny is as well. He's been doing a great job with all the blends that they're doing over.
Have you guys tried the Founders finish yet?
With the KBS? No, not yet.
Yeah, dude. If you like stout, I mean,
I like
that's stouts. Kenny's love language.
I like my stouts.
Yeah, dude. If you're stout lovers, it's just basically chocolate and coffee notes on top of and it is. I think it's 10-year Dickel. But you don't really taste it at all.
Softens that orange note.
Yeah, so that's what's nice about it. You get the chocolate and the coffee, and then right on the very end, you get that little bit of orange spice to kind of round it out. It's so I mean, I don't think it's going to win like any Bourbon of the Year awards because it's a very specific profile, but it's really good. And I think it kind of goes back to also, Ryan, you mentioned earlier how you think people's palates they just want stuff that's sweeter and more sweet and more sweet. And I just think that's all the new releases just keep going that way.
Yeah, that's why you see all these toasted and wood vin because it gets more those sweet, sugary flavors from the wood.
Yeah. So the BRT1 will be from the top of the workhouse, and the BRT2 will be from the lower floors of the workhouse, or vice versa. I can't remember which. Yeah. So the two releases. So they're going to do 2 releases of these in the fall. Apparently, both of those makers releases. They're not splitting up like they did spring and fall last year. They're both going to be around the fall time, but they're going to be different tiers. So you'll have the same stave profiles, but it'll be kind of a study in tiers, which will be interesting. So all right, so let's get into speaking of single barrels, we were talking about a little bit. I want to really get your thoughts on what happened recently with talking about, first let's go back to just the law that's written for just going to a distillery in Kentucky. So when you go to a distillery, technically by law, you're only allowed to have 1 3/4 ounces at the most. When you go to distillery and you're just trying samples. I think there's also a limit. Was it a 6-bottle limit that you can buy when you're at a distillery as well in Kentucky? So basically, if you look at how barrel picks work, you go there and you're trying multiple barrels and you're going through and you're easily drinking more than 1 3/4 ounce. When you're not
drinking with an eyedropper. That's
just you gotta do little drops there. It's crazy. You're sitting there, and by the time and you don't know, like if you've done a pick at Wild Turkey, if you've done a pick at Four Roses, and they just keep rolling out barrels. You could be there for a good amount of time just sipping some great barrels. On top of that, you have the fact that the distillery kind of makes the call on who gets single barrels, what that allocation is. So you're kind of in essence skipping a part of the 3-tier system. God forbid you're not really. Yeah. God forbid
heavens! One bottle doesn't make it to.
God forbid you skip the 3-tier system. For God's sake, you're basically skipping the distributor. Kind of make that call because obviously the distributor has to fucking control everything. You have to buy 50 gallons of vodka before you can actually get any sort of good whiskey. So the distillery gets to say who gets the pick. It's kind of, then you have the visitors versus the purchaser, when you get to the distillery. So just, was it yesterday or the day before, we have new legislation going into effect. Fred Minnick posted it on his blog. We have a House bill to save these single barrel programs because now we have legislators in Kentucky that are going after them saying that they're illegal. So Kentucky House Representative Chad McCoy, God bless his soul, introduced Bill HB 500 to save private barrel selections and create new revenue streams for distillers, such as satellite tasting rooms and distillery-only bottle releases. It's the second piece in a proposed Kentucky legislation to define private barrel selections. SB 160 was introduced as an emergency act on February 10th. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts on it. Like when I first heard that somebody was coming after the single barrel experience, I nearly lost my shit. I couldn't believe that. I mean, if you go back, Kentucky is the only they're the only state that's taxing these barrels that are being aged, right?
Right.
You have
the ad valorem tax is what it's called.
They paid $33 million in taxes last year, roughly.
Yep. We're still broke.
In 2021, $33 million in taxes on barrels. I think that, in turn, that could, have kind of a ripple effect to new distillers coming to Kentucky. They don't want to pay those taxes. Obviously you have a refund or a transferable tax break that kind of gets to you at a certain point, but even that is only giving you 30% of relief because of how many barrels are aging right now. So real quick, so going back, single barrel, when you guys heard that Kentucky legislators were maybe going after the single barrel programs, number one, were you surprised? And number two, did you get as infuriated as I did?
I'm so glad, and I hate that you brought this up at the same exact time. So it's like, so we'll give a little bit of a way. So Ryan and I, we recorded This Week in Bourbon earlier today, and we brought this up and talked about it, and it almost kind of infuriated me to a point.
Yeah.
And this is because, and I'm going to probably just repeat myself. So if anybody doesn't know, there's a lot of crazy laws that are on the books in almost every single state. And there's one of them, and I even told this to Fred when Fred sent this to me. I said, he's like, they're coming after barrel picks. I said, Fred, did you know that it's illegal for a woman in Owensboro to actually purchase a hat without her husband's permission? And like, this is the same exact thing. Like, this is a rule that nobody's enforcing. Nobody's looking at. The only reason we're talking about it is because somebody dug it up and they want to make this a thing. I don't think that anybody in the distillery or even in the government side was even looking at enforcing this.
Yeah, was even aware of it.
Yeah, we're not even aware of it. And so all of a sudden we're putting a spotlight on it.
Yeah.
Like, we've been doing this since it ever started. Like, I don't understand like why we're trying to make this a thing. And so the idea of calling it an emergency act, or the idea like we have to create new legislation, like just fucking let it go. Like, it's been the same exact thing as it's always been. Like, we're not going to stop women from buying hats in Owensboro. We're not going to stop people from selecting a barrel at a barrel pick. Like, and Fred made a good point. And he goes, it's not a regulated substance in Owensboro for a hat. I said, yeah, I get it. But I get it. I mean, at some point, if you really think the governor or anybody is going to come down after Bourbon just raised, I don't know how many X millions of dollars for the Kentucky, Western Kentucky tornado relief, out of all the millions that are done through all of the taxes that are incentivized through bourbon and everything like that.
Not to mention just the money that single barrels raise in general for some chatter relief throughout the year that we may not even know about. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And you're going to sit here and think that they're going to give like two shits about like 5 ounces of bourbon. Like, come on.
Yeah.
This is something. This is just, sorry, I'll finish and let you, Ryan.
Yeah.
This is just something of somebody in government that is trying to keep themselves as a face, and they want to be in the news and they want to be a part of it. And guess what happened? We're fucking talking about it. And so that's exactly what they got out of it. And I think that's exactly what happened. And it's nothing that is, I don't think this is anything that anybody would ever cared about. This has been in the books for, I don't know what, forever. And all of a sudden,
I mean,
in the past week, it's huge news. Like,
how many archaic liquor laws have we seen just in the country that nobody, pays attention to? And other laws, like you said, the hat one. I mean, there are probably written laws that we don't even know about that people are digging up and that nobody pays attention to. And I agree, this is one of them. I just like from like optics wise, it just looks like like to me, you have these Kentucky legislators that are seeing how well bourbon is doing, and they looking for another way to get a piece of the pie. And it's just that's what kind of
Well,
grinded my gears a little bit.
well, and here's the thing: is like they'll say, well, you're only supposed to sample. All these distilleries have to do is be like, well, we're just gonna build in $10 a person because you can sell cocktails and drinks by the pour at distilleries now. So it's
Yeah.
like all these distilleries can do is just do a workaround. It's like let's not make this any harder than it needs to be. Like, come on, like Kenny said, somebody's just gonna be like, look at me, I saved bourbon or I saved the single barrels, to get votes or whatever. It's even if they were to say, yes, we can't do single barrels because of this law, there'll be a workaround to make it happen. They're not going to cut them. That's just malarkey.
Yeah, I think it ruins the experience for just folks getting there. Now, the one thing that I saw is or I was thinking about is like, how do you just say like this kind of went through, or they're trying to find some workarounds. Like obviously, if you're doing barrel picks, you could do samples virtually. I mean, that kind of kills the idea of going to the distillery and drinking, God forbid, more than 1 3/4 ounces of bourbon. But then, you get into, you have to ship samples out. You have to get, all that, which is another headache, I'm sure, for distillery. The 3-tier system and skipping a tier was an interesting kind of, viewpoint of it. And
That needs to happen.
Yeah.
I think we've been vocal about it, and we've always said that there's always going to be a need for a 3-tier, and part of a distributor has to play. I'm not going to say the 3-tier system is necessarily perfect, but a distributor will always have a place to play in this realm, because whether direct-to-consumer shipping becomes a prominent thing or anything else starts becoming very popular, distributors play a very important role, and it's more about logistics of being able to take a product, give it to somebody in California, and then all of a sudden it's in 82 stores overnight. Like, that is something that anybody that's just starting up just can't do. But if you find the right distributor, you find the right partner, that is something that is possible. However, I feel it is very archaic to say that, I'm sorry, like, you can't sell anything out of your gift shop, or you can't sell it to a consumer unless it actually touches the hand of distributor, because they are trying to protect the consumer. They're trying to make sure that what you're selling them isn't arsenic, or it's not something that is, super bad. I mean, whatever it is, there's just these laws that are in place today that say that a distributor is there to protect the person or protect the consumer, when it's really not. They're a middleman at the end of the day.
It's just fear tactics to control their turf. And it's, this needs to change too, because bourbon's like, single barrels are really hard to get, and just they're rare now, but here in probably 4 to 5 years, they're probably not going to be. And you want to give access to those as many people as possible. And it's hard for every group to just be like, okay, liquor store, do a barrel for me. It'd be nice, to say like, we want to pick a single barrel. We might split it 3 ways, or, kind of like what New Riff does up in, you can, buy a third of a barrel or whatever.
God, could you imagine the tax implications of figuring that out?
I don't know. I mean, like any way to, I feel like not only should they protect the single barrel programs, but they should make it even more customizable and make it easier for folks to have that experience. It's just going to drive more folks to Kentucky to have that experience and make more money for the state. I don't see why they would have to regulate it.
People come in, they buy hotels, they go to the restaurants, they spend 3 or 4 days here for just one single barrel pick, So it's like, it's not just the barrel itself that pays for it. It's all the trickle effect that, our state benefits from. So it's like, I don't know. I hate government, and I should stop. And we're
gonna get ourselves in trouble. We really will.
It's 10:30, and
well, no, I'm glad you guys. I'm glad we kind of hit on that point a little bit. It was something I want to talk. It's been something I've been getting a lot of questions about. I just want to get your perspective, and I totally appreciate it. Without getting too far into the weeds on all of it, but
I think we all can agree that it's just something that. It's something that never really needed to put a spotlight on, and I don't really think anybody is. It just all of a sudden just became a thing because some senator or somebody found it and wants to make this their stake and claim. And
Yeah.
I don't really feel that it's necessary to sit there and say, oh, the whole bourbon community needs to rally around it because we're going to save barrel picks. Like, we don't need saving. Like, nobody's coming after this. Like,
yeah, like nobody's.
And if you're gonna say that, oh no, like somebody's coming after this, like it's distributors or it's the governor or it's whatever, like I'll call BS on that all day. Like I don't believe it, because there's too much money at stake to say like you're gonna come after like a couple grand at the end of the day. Maybe let's calculate it all together of all the distilleries and all the barrel picks and all what you would collect. Maybe like 50 grand, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Drop in the
penny.
bucket.
That's a penny in the water fountain.
Yeah, I mean most of those guys,
right?
yeah, most of those guys have that in their sock right now, just like hanging out. So
yeah,
it's nothing. And the amount of paperwork just to recoup some of that little bit of money, just to say that you saved barrel picks in Kentucky. I mean, it's bullshit.
exactly.
All right, guys, real quick before we go. I did want to get your, if you had to, I guess, call out a couple of releases that you're looking forward to for this year, just based on what you guys know. Is there anything that you guys are looking forward to that that has yet to be released that you know of?
It's funny. We do This Week in Bourbon every single week, and we always say like, hey, we're looking forward to this one. It's really hard to kind of pin one down. You know, there's at this point with only a month and a half into the year, I can't say that there's something that has shown up on the radar that I say I can't wait to get this.
All right, so let me phrase it this way: is there an annual release, a bottle that comes out each and every year that no matter what variation is, what finish they do on it, you're buying it no matter what? Obviously, we found out that if it's toasted, Ryan's buying it.
No.
But it's got to say deep. It's got to be
not
a
what I
deep
said.
toast.
It's got to be a deep toast. Yeah, deep toast.
Yeah, I mean, for me, to be honest with you, I think the one that has always been last year didn't hit the mark, but every single year prior to then has always been great. Is it's always interesting to see what Four Roses can pull out for their small batch limited edition. I mean, we had the opportunity. Ryan and I, we actually went to the RV and what was it, the boat and RV show.
Yeah.
And we had an opportunity to go and talk to Brent Elliott there. And we probably sat down for 30 minutes with him and just kind of shot the shit. And
I would love to know. I mean, I've listened to your interviews, but I mean, man, I can only imagine what he goes through to blend that thing. That was my bourbon of the year for 2021. Came out of nowhere. I got it late last year. I put in a blind tasting and it won. So crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and he's super down to earth, and he's a
cool dude.
You don't have the microphone in front of me. He's pretty nice and open about everything, and so we just kind of talked about some stuff, and it was really cool to hear about it. It's like a spoiled riches. It's like, yeah, I've got all these 25-year barrels. I don't know what to do with like okay, like I'm sure there's worse things to deal with, but no, I mean, they always do a fantastic job, and he gets the opportunity to go and just blend for 3 months to try to figure out like what's the right ratio of all these extra stocks he has, and it's always interesting to kind of see what they come up with, and for the most part, it's usually never disappointed because you don't meet a whole lot of people that says like I don't like that Four Roses. That's not a typical thing.
Yeah, and it tends to get overlooked because it comes out right there in September around the fall time when all the the Pappy and the BTAC and all that stuff is kind of hitting. So
perfect.
The Four Roses tends to get overlooked a little bit. Yeah,
kind of radar.
Flies under the radar and ends up being a hitter of a bourbon each and every year. So I agree with that one. What about you, Ryan?
Man, I've been thinking about this, and there's this really up and coming brand. I'm laughing.
Does it have some orange?
If you say Pursuit Spirits, I'm walking out.
No. It's even cooler than that. It's called David Chugs, or what was it?
Dan Chugs.
Dan Chugs.
All right, so this is just gonna let it be known here, and then Kenny, you can make a whole episode about this on your podcast. Dan Kids Chugs is going to be Ryan's number one whiskey of the year. Number three whiskey.
1 and 2 were so good. We had to do a third one. I'm so pumped for that. No, but man, gosh, I just love, I love Four Roses products. I love the Elijah Craig barrel proofs. I always look forward to those.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm limited releases stuff I just can't get into anymore. It's hard for me because I in Kentucky it's just gotten so tough to get those your hand in anywhere too. It's just gotten so tough, and so
yeah, I mean you can't get anything you can't get anything anymore. Really, kind of the fun of hunting is kind of
like Russell's 13 last year was, and rightfully so. It won a lot of Fred Minnick's whiskey of the year. I'm excited to see. Hopefully that comes out again because I really thought that was some fantastic whiskey.
Yeah, it is an annual. It is supposed to be an annual release, so we should see it again. But again, they had some pretty old whiskey in last year's. I think the youngest was 13, but they had some older whiskey in there.
Yeah, there's some there's a cool bottle coming out of Willett too that's going to be fun and can't talk about, but people will like it. So
I can tell you. I'll
start trolling the TTB for that one there, Jason.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a nugget for. I was at Wild Turkey last week. I was lucky enough to pick 15 barrels for the state of Ohio to help pick.
15?
Yeah, dude. It's basically like barrel pick speed dating.
I've been there before, but I've only done I think 5 at the most there. 15.
Yeah, you jump through. I mean, you're running through the warehouse, and he's just pulling. So we got to pick him with Bruce Russell. He was telling us a little bit about the next Master's Keep, which is going to be really good, I think. So I'm really excited for that one. So a little nugget there. Bruce Russell actually crafted the next Master's Keep, so keep an eye for that one. But yeah, so you're kind of running.
There might be an arrow to the throne, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but it's no Dan Chugs.
It's no Dan Chugs. It's not a Dan Chugs Master's Keep, thank God.
Dan Chugs is gonna find me and kill me.
You better start figuring out your passport issues now. And
yeah,
good thing
you're leaving.
Thankfully, I'm traveling tomorrow. Not telling.
Yeah, good thing you're leaving the state tomorrow. I'm not going to say anywhere you're going because I don't want him to find you. Yeah, it's kind of like you're running through the warehouse, and basically you're just kind of tasting each barrel. And if it's good, then you grab it. If it's not so great, then you kind of put it aside. But to pick 15, I think we tried 19 total, and so that means out of the 15, 4 of them were like, we're not taking this one. But if they're okay, they have some pretty good. I would say out of the 15 that we picked, there was 3 of them that were special. So I'm hoping to find those immediately.
Yeah, I was about to say for the state, 15 barrels for the entire state of Ohio. That's not going to go too far either.
Well, and that's the thing too. You kind of find out how the back business of it works, like where they send certain barrels. I'm not going to say anything, but it was pretty hilarious how, because I'm just there to like taste the bourbon, and they're like, "Is that good? Is it bad? Is it good? Let me know what you think." And then they kind of go in their computer and they kind of throw, all right, these barrels will go here, these barrels will go there. They kind of split it up between north and then south and then and central Ohio. So it was kind of an interesting thing to see how that worked. But
yeah, that's better than the North Carolina ABC's alignment.
Yeah. We got a great story there for that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm curious for you. So how did you get in? Did they just ring you up and say, "Hey, Jason, we really love your show. We'd love to have you come and select 15 barrels for the state of Ohio for us"? Like,
well, I was lucky. I don't know if I was lucky or if I was. I don't know if you call it luck, but I had Jim Canepa, who's the OHLQ superintendent of liquor for the state of Ohio, come on the channel live. So he was here in studio, and he took a beating in the chat. I mean, an absolute beating.
I'm sure anybody in a control state would.
Yeah, he was showing me, like, he gets hate mail, he gets threats like every day. I mean, it's insane. All about
the thickest skin. He's like an alligator at this point.
Yeah, all about Blanton's and all the bullshit that goes on with all the Buffalo Trace, maniacs. So basically, I kind of built a rapport with them, and then he's like, "Yeah, I would love to get you on a barrel pick at some point," and we go in and we pick a bunch, and I think he couldn't go to the one at Wild Turkey for some reason, so they were like, "Hey, we're going down for a day. You want to help pick 15 barrels?" I was like, "Wait, what?" So I was like, 15? I mean, are we going to be there all effing day? Like, what the hell? How's that work?
No, you got a 3-hour window. We got
you get a 3-hour window to pick 15 barrels, and we were just running through. The best part was Bruce. I'll never forget this. Bruce Russell is freaking pounding the shit out of a barrel, waiting for the cork, waiting for the cork to pop out.
The only place that still does that.
Yeah, and he's hammering the shit, and he breaks the hammer breaks. The hammer comes off the handle, and he's like, "Well, shit! In 9 years of doing single barrels, this has never happened." So we had to leave, go up to the actual where the still was, and go. He ran in there to find a drill, and then we went old school. We went back, and we were just drilling into barrels and taste this, dude. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Last story for the night before we kind of do this.
Yep.
Yeah, Wild Turkey's still the only place that actually takes that wooden hammer and goes on either side of the bung to try and do that. Literally every distillery now has these tools. All you do have to just like screw it in, do like 3 hammers, and then pull it out. But for some reason, they still do that. And I remember the last time we did a barrel pick at Wild Turkey, Eddie Russell basically emasculated me because because I was just like, "Don't you have a tool that makes this a lot easier?" He's like, "What are you? What kind of wuss are you? Go ahead and handle it out." I'm like, "All right." And of course, being like the strong man I am, but by the way, there's a lot of padding here, so it took me a little to get that bung out. And after that, I was just like, I'll just go with the tools after this.
You should have ate more Capicola as a kid.
Yeah, I need more
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I've been working out with Mr. Chugs, so I'm
nice.
Oh yeah. Take Dan Chugs with you. He'll get that bung out.
We need Jason to be a bodyguard for us at some point.
Fucking Ryan is going to be hiding in the weeds all week.
He's gonna be on my flight tomorrow.
Dude, just get to the airport ASAP. Like, leave right now.
Dan, I believe in you. I love what you're doing.
Dan, your palate.
We just need to taste the whiskey.
Yeah. What was? Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Dan actually just entered the chat.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Dan,
there you go. You're ruined, him? Ryan.
Is that him?
I didn't.
Heard someone was talking smack about my whiskey. Don't knock it till you try it, brothers. No,
I'd love to try
we're
it.
not knocking it. We just don't.
Don't know the label. We don't know anything.
Yeah, we don't know anything. We just saw the label.
I'd love to try it. Send us a bottle. I'd love to try it.
Yeah, I'll try anything MGP, but I mean, shit. I don't know. He's gonna have to. Dan Kids Chug is like, send me some info about it. Send me an email at themashanddrum@gmail.com, and let's find out what's going on with this whiskey. So, real quick,
us a press release, and then we'll put it on This Week in Bourbon as well.
Yeah. Obviously, Kenny needs a press release before he'll talk about anything. So
it's true. I have to have a press release. It has to. If it's not official, we don't talk about
it. Somebody said I'm not really Dan. Thank God. I was scared.
We got had again.
Yeah. These are just messing around. But Dan Kids Chug, I appreciate you jumping in the chat. That was really cool. But I want to actually thank Ryan and Kenny for jumping on. I've been wanting to have you guys on for a while. Hopefully we could collab again, maybe on your podcast at some point. But if you guys, if nobody here has listened to you quite yet, tell everyone where to find you.
For sure. And yeah, definitely I want to extend the invitation. Next time we do recording, it'll be in July and August of this year. I'd love to be able to have you down, and we'll find a topic or something fun to talk about. We'll make it happen. But thank you again for having us on. So Bourbon Pursuit, the official podcast of Bourbon, as you can kind of see on your screen here. You can find us on every single podcasting platform, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Amazon, whatever it is. You type in the word bourbon. I hope that we are the #1 result. We've been the official podcast, the #1 whiskey podcast for a few years running, and we continually try to find great and new and interesting topics and guests and just things to be able to talk about in the bourbon world. And if you like the show, make sure you share it, tell a friend, and because that is the best way that we can make sure that you get the best bourbon news out there. And I'll let Ryan give a plug for Pursuit Spirits down here.
Yeah, if you haven't given us a shot, we're just trying to, we're put a lot of passion into this. We get some great, unique flavors. It's a great blend that we like, so we hope that you like it too. And if you have supported us, thank you for taking a chance on us. We're proud of what we've done, and we're just going to continue to grow and build on the success that we've had. And just want to say thank you to everyone that's tried to, giving us great reviews. Jason, thanks for having us on. I mean, like I said, big fan of the show and everything you've done for the community. So just really grateful for the opportunity to come on here, share our stories, and get to talk about Dan Jugs. And
But also one more plug. But just make sure, if you haven't had a chance yet, to try Pursuit United, it is still available. The rye is not, but the bourbon is still available in a few different states. So we're in Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas, Illinois, Georgia, and Colorado. And it's also online right now at sealbox.com. So you can go and have it shipped to your door if you want to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at bottling the next round in the July time frame. So
and coming to Ohio soon.
And coming to Ohio in 2022, as long as we
pass the
now we're talking. LQ boards, interviews, like whatever that is, like we'll be there next year.
Yeah, but Jason, you gotta get us to the right person.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys would need any connections into OHLQ, let me know. I could steer you in the right direction there. So yeah, really appreciate you guys for hanging out. Everyone, if you have not yet, please hit the like button before you head out. I have a video dropping tomorrow. Actually, doing a little bit of a Scotch review here for Talisker, one of my favorite Scotch distilleries, coastal Scotch distilleries. Some little bit of that salted caramel type notes that you get on there. And then we'll have an interesting double bass episode this week on Friday with a Bellmead Cask Reserve going against Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered. So that'll be a fun head to head. So
the battle of the MGPs.
Yeah. So both of them blended MGPs. Obviously the Uncut Unfiltered is a little bit of a higher proof, but I'm curious to see what those do head to head, just in a blind, and see how that turns out. But cheers, guys! Thanks for hanging out. If you're a patron, I think I'm going to do a quick live stream for patrons only, kind of go through what we're doing, what are the upcoming picks we have coming out, our Maker's pick coming out Friday, and what's going on with this Sagamore pick that I'll tell you a little bit about, and some of the other ones that we have up and coming. So Ryan and Kenny, cheers. Thanks so much for your time. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers. See you guys next time right here in the Master Drum. Take care.
Toodles.